Hello everybody, welcome to today's Facebook Live. I want to talk today about being overly responsible and how that damages relationships. Being responsible is a good quality, but being overly responsible is where it puts conflict between you and others and conflict within yourself, and oftentimes results in isolation and abandonment of other relationships, the very thing that you're trying to preserve. So I want to talk a little bit about what is being overly responsible and what does it look like, where does it come from, and what are the results of it, and then how to recover from it. So what is over responsibility? It is when I feel the need to, or have a sense of ownership over other people's behaviors, over their emotional well-being, over their responsibilities, and I'm trying to manage them and take care of them because I don't believe that they're going to take care of themselves, or they're not doing a very good job of taking care of themselves. So what are some examples? What does that look like? One of the ways that you can recognize being overly responsible is when you maneuver somebody else to make good choices. You can see this oftentimes in people with addiction, or people who like you have to maneuver them because they're stubborn, or because they don't know what they're doing, or you don't believe that they can handle it, and so you start to maneuver them into making the right choices. Another way that you act out over responsibility would be manipulation to get a desired outcome. It also enables irresponsibility. Somebody who doesn't want to take any responsibility, so you take on responsibility for them and do it for them so that they can remain irresponsible while you're doing all the work. Another way that you can recognize over responsibility is through by when you self-sacrifice to the point where you're depleted and you hit burnout and you wear yourself out. Another way is triangulation, inserting yourself into another relationship where there's 3 people in that relationship, and you've inserted yourself in such a way that you're helping them to navigate their connection with each other and how they relate to each other, so that you're in the middle of that. Or meddling on somebody's behalf. I'm going to meddle and get involved to fix something that I see going on between 2 other people. Another way would be, we're constantly reminding or nagging another person to take care of their responsibilities or what they need to do, and micromanaging somebody else. And also being overly responsible sets you up to be taken advantage of, because people know that you will be the one that they can ask to do things, that you'll take on their responsibility for them, that you'll take care of things and make things easier for them, so they'll constantly take advantage of you and play on your sympathies, or by using their own desperation, or always in a crisis, so you need to jump in, you need to help them out. I'd like to give some examples of these, practical examples, like oftentimes it comes from like growing up in a home where, let's say, there was a chaotic atmosphere and lots of conflict, or somebody's emotionally out of control, lots of anger, or somebody doesn't know how to handle their emotional self very well, and so as a child you've had to step in and help them navigate and manage their emotional space, and manage the atmosphere, and manage the chaos in the home, to help keep things calm and peaceful. Like oftentimes when there's a sibling who was maybe out of control, or parents who can't get along, and so as a child you felt you had to to insert yourself into the middle. That's that triangulation where I have to get in the middle to get these people to get along with each other, because if I don't, then there's just this chaos and instability. And by me inserting myself into that relationship, then I can bring a peaceful resolution. I can get everybody to get along, and I can keep things safe and secure for myself. Another way might be, it usually comes because you're naturally a caring person and a helpful person, and so that ends up, you want to jump in to help out, or other people recognize that in you, and so they want to take, they use you as a resource because you're naturally caring and helpful. And so it's, when that gift goes too far, when your love, it goes too far. It also comes from the fear of other people falling apart. Like I've seen this, when another person isn't handling themselves emotionally, like parents in a divorce situation where, say, mom doesn't handle that well, or finds out dad's having an affair, and so mom can't handle it, and so mom's falling apart. So you have to step up to the plate and start taking care of things and managing everything and keeping mom happy. I have to keep mom happy because now dad's not in the home, so I have to keep mom happy because she's my only parent that I can rely on. Or I have to take care of things for my younger siblings. I have to help make sure mom pays the bills, or I have to keep things taken care of at home. It comes from the need to manage chaos, or the threat of chaos, like addiction, homes with addiction. When there's so much intensity around the addict, that everybody has to keep the addict happy, keep the addict from making bad choices, managing the addict's behavior. They get out of control, or they make messes all around them. They don't show up to work, or they wreck the car, or they end up in jail, or they beat somebody else up. So I have to keep everything managed around this addict because they're completely out of control. So that's another way that overly responsible thing is developed. It can also be taking over for neglectful caregivers. If your caregivers didn't adequately provide for you emotionally or physically, and so you've had to take over in their place and make sure that you get your needs met, or that you get your other siblings' needs met. It can also be a way to earn love and value. Like oftentimes people who are overly responsible, they get a sense of value. Like I find approval, I find acceptance, I find that I belong, or that I'm wanted because of how I take care of everything, and I help people, and they need me, and so I'm needed, and so therefore I'm wanted. Another way that would be developed is through obligation. Like somebody puts that obligation on you to take care of responsibilities that aren't yours. Like, you need to manage this, you need to manage this, you need to take care of that. And so they give it to you. Everything falls on your lap, and then you're now in charge and responsible. Or a guilt trip. Demanding people will put a guilt trip on you and make you feel bad about yourself if you don't take on that responsibility, is often how that is developed. Or desperate people. The people around you are just absolutely desperate, and they're drowning, and your heart is aching and bleeding for them because you're watching them drowning. And so I have to step in and rescue them, because if I don't, then it feels desperate. And so I'm the one that's protecting them and rescuing them. Or having relationships with manipulative people, or blame shifting, when someone doesn't take ownership of their part of the relationship, and they blame shift problems onto the other person, and they that other person feel like it's because of you and because of what you've done, and that blame shifting of I'm that other person is saying, oh, I'm not responsible for anything. None of the blame is me, it's you, it's all on you. And so if you've lived under that for a long time, then you learned that it must be me, and I must be the one that's to blame for everything. And so that means I have to fix everything. And when things don't go wrong, I believe this lie that it's because of me and because of something that I'm not doing right, something I'm not doing well. My mentor, Wendy Backlund, used to always accuse me of being having an overactive sense of responsibility. And so I was an oldest child, so it came to me naturally. Plus, I'm a caring and loving person. I want to help people. And so it was easy for me to then take it too far and try to manage other people. And thank God for Danny Silk and Loving on Purpose. I learned where I end and another person begins, and to deal with that enmeshment, and to bring wholeness and strength in a relationship. So what are some of the results when I feel overly responsible for, if I act in that overly responsible sense, and I'm managing other people and other things, then that other person, those other people that I'm managing who I shouldn't be managing, are now feeling controlled. They're feeling manipulated, because you have to use manipulation to manage other people, because truly a person can only manage their own heart. I can't manage another person's heart no matter how hard I try. Have you ever tried to manage the heart of a 2-year-old? You can't do it. So no matter how old you are, you really can't manage the heart of another person. And so when you try, then you become the problem in the other person's life, and so they need to get distance from you to you become their problem, and they need to get away from you instead of the problem being the problem. It also teaches another person that they don't have to take responsibility for their part of the relationship. And so you're not just managing yourself, you're managing them too. And so many pieces of yourself have to die off in order to take care of that and to make that work. So it can cause isolation. You end up, it's this one-sided relationship where I don't get any of my own needs met because I'm so busy meeting your needs, and I'm revolving around you to take care of you, so I can't afford to have any needs because my needs might conflict with yours. And so I have to shut my own needs down to make sure that you're being taken care of. And so when I do that, I'm not fully showing up in a relationship. My actions are showing up, my performance is showing up in a relationship, but my heart isn't showing up. And so there's a disconnect, and that causes a sense of internal isolation and abandonment on the inside, because I'm not being ministered to. So I'm not giving you room to love me in return, because I've created this one-sided relationship dynamic by being the one overly responsible for you. It's like a deflection away from my own needs. It also can create invisibility, like if you'll end up feeling like you're completely invisible, because like I said, you've shut down your own needs because you're taking care of everyone else. And so you don't get to be seen. And so oftentimes overly responsibility people will complain of feeling invisible and never seen, and people don't see me, people don't do things for me, people don't show up for me. And that's mostly because that's the dynamic that you've created through over responsibility. And like I said, abandonment, because as long as if you create dynamics in your relationships where they're one-sided and you're the one taking care of everything in the relationship, then that person, the other person in the relationship, has learned, probably before you came along, but they've learned in that dynamic that that their only their connection with you is based on you being useful to them, and so they end up not sticking around. And so if you're an overly responsible person, you'll notice that a lot of your relationships fizzle out and die, or people abandon you, and you'll feel used and used up, because when they're done with you, then they walk away and find somebody else. And so you end up pouring, like a common complaint is, I poured out everything and I gave everything, and I never got anything back. And so I'm so tired of opening myself up to people because they never show up for me. And that's because you've taught them that dynamic through that one-sidedness by being overly responsible. And then the final thing, the result is blame, self-blame. If I'm completely responsible for everything, then I have control over everything. It feels like it. But then also, when things don't go right, then I'm the one to blame. So if I'm the one carrying the responsibility for it, then I'm also the one to blame for it when it doesn't work out. And so guilt, shame, regret, why are they, ghosting me? Why is that person not in my life anymore? It's something that I've done. And what happened in that conversation that made them feel that way? When somebody's upset in the room, it's got to be my fault. I've done it. They're being quiet. Oh no, what did I do? And you're scanning, trying to figure out what it is that you did wrong. That's because when you have that sense of over responsibility, then you feel like everything is your fault and you're always to blame, which isn't true. Some of the symptoms of over responsibility would be constantly rushing from one thing to the next and never feeling caught up, being stressed out, overcommitted, constantly overcommitting yourself, double booking yourself, wearing yourself out with, somebody needs something, putting out fires all the time. You're always, rushing to the urgent and taking care of the urgent. There's always something urgent. There's always something falling apart, always something that needs to be taken care of, somebody that needs something, or somebody calls you up and they have this urgent need. That's a real common dynamic in a relationship where you're overly responsible, is everybody's urgency or crisis falls into your lap, and you're always running from crisis to crisis trying to take care of everything. And that's because you feel like it's your responsibility when things aren't going right, and so that I need to help, I need to jump in, I need to take care of that. You end up diminishing your own needs. Like I said, you end up almost losing yourself, like you don't even know who you are. What do I like? What do I dislike? I don't even know what is important to me. I don't know how to take care of my needs. I don't know how to ask for my needs. It feels selfish to ask to get my needs met. Things like that. Those are the thinking patterns of an overly responsible person. Also resentment when other people don't help out. Resentment when I'm the only one doing anything here and nobody else is helping me. That's because you've taught them that you're going to do everything for them. And guilt for never doing enough, never being enough. And conflict avoidance. I don't want to have any conflicts. That's scary to me. I don't want to get disapproval or upset anybody, because once again, it's going to be my fault. So if I put up any kind of boundaries, then I'm going to feel selfish, and I'm going to hurt people, and those kinds of lies that get in there when it comes to boundaries. So if you're overly responsible, boundaries will be kind of scary for you to put up. Burnout is another thing. If you're finding yourself in burnout, it's because you're overcommitted, and if you don't know how to say no to people, that's that belief that I'm responsible for everything, which isn't true. So what's the remedy? How do we get out of this? One of the ways is to realize that I cannot manage other people's well-being, and you really have to get that in your head, that I can manage my own well-being on a good day, but I can never manage somebody else's well-being. That's their choice and their what they've decided. You can't make somebody angry. You can't make somebody sad. You can do something that results in, offensive, that they can be angry at you for, but you can't make anybody be angry. You can't make anybody be upset. That's a choice that they're making within their own heart and a decision that they're making inside of themselves. So even if you did do something offensive, truly offensive, it's the other person's choice of how to react to that. And you have to be okay with letting somebody else be angry, letting somebody else be upset, letting people be in conflict with each other and not feeling the need to jump in and fix that. You have to really let people struggle and realize the value in struggle. All of us learn some of our greatest lessons when we've struggled through something that was hard. And when you interrupt that for somebody else, you're actually interfering with their growth process and keeping them from developing really important aspects in their own maturity by rescuing them. Forgiveness is a part of the remedy. Like, I need to forgive the people who taught me that I was responsible for everything, like when I was young. Forgive those people for dumping that responsibility on you, for not managing themselves well, for putting you in a chaotic environment, for not protecting you. And then forgiving yourself for things that you've done wrong, or things that you thought you've done wrong, or things that you've blamed yourself for, and finding resolution through forgiveness. Another one is boundaries. I don't know if you can see it on my bookshelf behind me there. Boundaries book, the red and white one. It's called Boundaries. It's written by Townsend and Cloud. I recommend it to everybody. Get the book, read about boundaries and how to have them and why they're important, and that having boundaries is an act of love. It's not an act of selfishness or an act of hurting somebody else. It's actually an act of love. So that book will break that down a whole lot more for you. Or Danny Silk's Keep Your Love On is another good book for you to learn about what do healthy relationships look like. Because if you've lived in, dysfunctional relationships your whole life, you're not going to know what healthy ones look like. So Keep Your Love On by Danny Silk or Boundaries by Townsend and Cloud. Two great resources for your rehabilitation, your emotional rehabilitation. And then developing the ability to know what's yours, what's important to you, who are you and what do you love. Like, create lists of things that you like the smell of after the rain, or beautiful flowers, or a babbling stream, or a baby laughing. Things that you like. Just write list and list and list to kind of get to know yourself a little bit better, to find out who am I and what makes me tick, and what's important to me as separate from other people, so that you can see yourself as an individual and learn to appreciate that, because it's hard to have boundaries if you don't believe that what you're protecting is valuable. So if you don't see yourself as valuable, you're going to have a hard time having boundaries to protect you. So you need to find out what's the treasure that's me. Talk to Father God, find out what that is. Explore self-help resources, and really get to know yourself and find out why you're worth protecting, and why it's important to only manage what's actually your responsibility. And it'll be a growth process. It's not going to happen overnight, but the more you move in that direction, and you start letting go of things that aren't yours, and you become comfortable with saying no, then you'll grow and develop and get closer and closer and closer to your goals of no longer being overly responsible. So anyway, bless you. I'm going to pray for you. Father, I ask that you would teach and grow and develop each one of us to having healthy relationship dynamics and to not take responsibility for things that don't belong to us. And I ask that each person represented here, that you would just minister to these painful places that I've poked at today, and ask that you would heal and restore their sense of self and their sense of value. I ask that if they've become isolated and experiencing that abandonment, rejection of others because of the one-sided dynamics that they created in relationships, I ask that you would restore new healthy connections in their life and help them to find what you designed for us to have in connection with you and with ourselves and with others. So I ask for you to rewire our thinking so that we can understand healthy relationship dynamics. And I ask that you would heal and restore hearts. In Jesus' name, amen. Bless you. Bye.